afternoon, everyone. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So start the meeting with a huge thank you to Don Rieger, who offered to do the minutes, because if I had to do them today, they probably would have been just a mess. So thank you for doing that. Appreciate it. It was a late night last night, so we're moving forward on that. Oh, so begin. Thank you, and to everyone who won. We'll begin our meeting as we always do with public audience. Is there anyone who wants to speak?
Sure. I have to go up there.
No.
Okay. I'm Diane Nash.
Oh, we're going to get entertainment.
On Marywood.
Sorry.
I didn't know we were having entertainment today. My main reason for coming today is I saw on the agenda that there was a master plan that was being discussed. And since I guess I've been around since the inception of the Open Space Committee, I've gotten confused over the years about what we do, who makes the decision, who helps draft, how much public involvement is involved in it. And I know people like Jerry and I wouldn't ignore Don either, have the frustration over the years of being able to get the town to provide enough money to take care of some of the properties that we've preserved has been an issue. So whenever you have any success, it's like, okay, we finally got the money. It's sort of how I looked at what we've preserved between the land trust and what the town has done. Victory! Now we have it. And now what do we do? And I guess I'm old enough and have been in town long enough to say, I swore I'd never say this, that was the easy part. Preserving it, getting it passed, getting the vote, getting people to vote their money was the easy part. The hard part is going to be up to this new panel for conservation and our new selectmen. What concerns me, though, is that there seems to be, because now I'm sort of an outsider, a disconnect between what the people want or what they thought they were doing when they preserved a specific piece of property and what, and because I haven't heard this plan, what seems to be the goals going forward. Certainly we heard the ruckus on land that isn't ours, Great Pond, state land. But when people see what to them is disruption, it says, one, we haven't stated. We didn't tell why we were doing what we were doing, where we were going to do it, and was, frankly, there a better way of doing it. Going forward, obviously, some of you attended the Old Growth Forest seminar. I would love to see this group, the conservation group, Jerry, if you're in charge of open space, as well as some of the parks, is to not view our forests and our preserved properties as active parks, but to isolate them and say which ones really need, I'll call it aggressive management, and which ones maybe, under the new science of forest, and I hate to say do nothing, because it sounds like we're going back to abandoning how hard you tried to get funding to do what needs to be done. So I would say, let's do active thought and study on at least some of our forests, and isolate those from other forests that you know need maintenance, that it has already been decided that they need some sort of more active. I would love to see you impanel a group of citizens so that there's a way you can better connect with the public on these issues.
Thank
You
you.
know, the first do no harm strikes me as leave it alone until we make sure we do the right thing.
Thank you. Any other comments from anyone? Okay.
Yeah, just a very quick one, really. Well, first of all, I'm here too because I'm interested in the master plan update and also the POCD, which is what you have on the agenda. So I'd like to see the update on that. And I just really concur with Diane in terms of, the Ethel Walker, in terms of, the talk about logging there. And I think that she has a point, because we've talked about this with our Keep the Woods group, because we sort of band together again, which we do from time to time. But I would like to say that wasn't easy, by the way, but there was nothing easy about it. That I think that is true. We convinced an entire town to vote to save that property. The town, helped with that, and I think in some way we're not keeping our end of the bargain. If we forest a portion of the Walker Woods. I think we saved it to save it as it is and to not forest it, so I agree with you.
Also, I'll just say, there's no plan to forest Ethel Walker Woods right now. So
How about what?
there's no plan to forest Ethel Walker Woods right now, so I'm not sure where that's coming from.
There is a plan that's been effected for, there was
Okay,
a
but that's
forest
good to
plan.
hear, because,
We have one.
from what we.
Not part of this.
One of the four.
No,
It's not part of this.
it's not part of what we're talking about
Not at all.
today. I don't know what that is.
But there is, because the head of school already signed off on a trail management maintenance plan.
So that's required by the purchase of the thing, so we had to meet our legal obligations. It actually won a statewide award for that plan.
Correct. And that is precisely what I obviously have not articulated well. There are ways to do that. And there's equipment that in the past was perfectly appropriate. I am suggesting that there is information and knowledge that makes you say, think twice
So
about that first truck that goes in there, because now we're not just talking about the canopy.
So there's no
trees.
trucks going in there. Let me just put that to rest. There are no trucks going in there. Nothing's happening there.
Well, that's
We're just
good.
doing the entrance, the 500 feet, it went through conservation, that's all that we've done. So let's put that to bed, and if there's anything else you want to talk, we'll get to the items when we get to them, but we're not doing anything. So this is really about an RFP and getting input as to what you'd like to see in an RFP. That's what the item is. We're not taking any action.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
But if you put out an RFP, I guess I'm also suggesting that, given that there appears to be a whole new or old science of management, that I would urge you to look at, not, I mean, I have nothing against the people who have done our management plans in the past. Are there different ones? And
thank
will
you.
the public have any involvement in that process?
So thank you. Well, I'll address some of these during the items. Is there anyone else who wants to speak at public audience? Okay. With that, we'll go on to review and adopt the minutes of June 7th, 2017.
No comments, and I move
No
approval.
comments, I read them.
Okay. So they will stand as approved. We don't actually need a motion if we're not going to make any changes.
Move that they be approved as written.
Okay. Would you like to second that?
It's not necessary.
It's not necessary, but we'll do it anyway.
All right, I will second it then.
All in favor, please say aye. Motion carries unanimously. We are going on to talk about the open space master plan. I have both Jerry and Jeff Shea, who is our engineer. People always wonder what this is. It's true, we accumulated all this land, and then we said, well, we should do a good job stewarding it. And part of that is coming up with a plan. So this is the first step. When you ask to assign a group of citizens who are, who can participate in this, well, guess what? We're citizens. And it's our job to do that. We're a representative from the Conservation Committee, which are a group of citizens with expertise in conservation issues. We have a citizen at large. We have a representative from planning. Mr. Bush will be by charter on this commission starting in December. So welcome, Dave, to this. And he is a citizen who is appointed to look at this issue. And all of our meetings have public audience, and so citizens can always participate. We put all of our documents online, and you can do that. Helen did a great presentation where we got a lot of citizen feedback. So I would say that there are absolutely avenues where citizens can participate, and they do every day, and we thank them for their service. We have over 300 people who give of their time to do just this. And as part of what they do, every meeting has public audience, or you have the ability to talk with individuals. So we always do. So there is no RFP, because we are seeking input on an RFP. Susan Messina sent us some information, which we thought was great, and that was an ordinary citizen who gave feedback that we're going to incorporate. So anybody can do that at any time. And there is no RFP, there is no action, there are no trucks. So what we're talking about is coming together with an idea, and we do have funding. The Board of I put forward the funding. I said we need to fund this, and the Board of Selectmen agreed that this is a good thing to fund. And the Board of Selectmen also agreed, although because of the budget cuts, to also fund a park master plan. As it turns out, the very same person who takes care of open space takes care of parks. Most of our open space is next to parks. The same equipment that we use for Parks and Rec is the same equipment we use for open space. So if we are going to do an evaluation of those, that we thought, and Jerry thought, and I think we have a recommendation from Culture, Parks and Rec, that we do them together, because it's going to be the same people. You can't have one person say, do all this for open space, oh, by the way, forget about this other job you have. And you're going to need this equipment to do open space, but oh, by the way, don't buy this other equipment for all the other stuff you have to do. Let's see if we can coordinate and figure it out. Now, is there someone who can do both a parks and an open space master plan? Is there someone out there with that expertise? The question is, I don't know, we haven't put it out, but we do have enough money to put it out at a national level and get it done very, very well. Everything on our initial research looks like almost every open space master plan includes open space master plan and parks, because it's always done by the same people, same equipment, you've got to do the same scheduling. So it's almost all done together. So what Jerry did is he provided some examples of some information he found. We provided this board the memo we got from Susan Messina and what she wanted to get incorporated. The way it works is conservation, which Don is our representative from there, sort of sets the priorities of the town on conservation issues. What is it we want to protect? These are people that are appointed with expertise. They're citizens who we say, let's appoint this group to decide that, and go out and speak to the public and find out. And they're in the process of relooking at both forest management and conservation issues, and they're in the process of prioritizing them. And that's their charge. They've been appointed by the Board of Selectmen to do just that. That's a group that says exactly what you asked for. We said, okay, let's create a conservation group to look at these issues. And that's what their charge is to do. Do you want to speak to that at all?
There's not much to add. We've been very actively taking quite a lot of public input on all of the forest-related matters of open space for the last couple of months. And we have not dealt with priorities on open space more broadly in preparation for an RFP, but I suppose we could do so.
And we do have some of the priorities that you guys set in a lot of the ordinances that we do. In the open space ordinance, it actually lists the priorities, and those are the ones that are the priorities that were chosen by the public with input by conservation. They sort of listed, these are the priorities. And if they want to relook at those priorities, they can absolutely do that, and that's their charge. And I believe that they are in the process of doing that. So Jerry deals with sort of two committees. One is conservation, and that's mostly covered by Mike Glidden. But Mike Glidden and Jerry talk all the time. And they sort of set the priorities of what it is we want to preserve, seeking input from the public. And once those priorities are established, then Dave Bush's committee, which is Culture, Parks, and Rec, are more the implementation of it, because they're in charge of Culture, Parks, and Recreation, and kind of open space. Jerry got put with open space with no funding and no staffing to do it. So it has now sort of fallen into Dave Bush's wheelhouse in terms of how do we schedule and take care of it. And for the most part, we haven't. We haven't done anything. And I will say, I get mixed messages from lots of residents. They say, you know, invasives are the most important thing. Well, you know how you get rid of invasives? It's very time management. You got to take down trees, you got to do herbicides, you got to do, it's extremely labor intensive. And then on the other hand, I hear, don't do anything. Well, if you don't do anything, you're going to have invasives. And even Helen's speaker said that very fact. He said, maybe they're not so bad. And so, and some of the, we've started to do some plans and they're re-reviewing them, but like Belden Forest is an old growth forest, the recommendation there is do nothing. And that's a great recommendation. So we can re-look at what we do, and we do that all the time, but that's through conservation. This board is actually not a recommending board. We're just doing this as a courtesy to the members of this board because they have an interest in it, but we're not actually a deciding thing. The decision to fund the Open Space Master Plan and the Parks Master Plan was done by the Board of Selectmen. And because the funding did not coincide, we're probably going to delay doing the open space to do it when we have the funding for Culture, Parks, and Rec, so we can do it together. And that's quite a bit of money. Jeff, that's about $200,000 we put towards this. So this will enable us to do an extremely comprehensive plan. And so we are reaching out to the public, including everyone here, what do you want to see in these plans? And if you only have an interest in open space, give us that. But if you have an interest in open space and, you know, parks and recreation, we're interested in that too. So most towns, when you do it, they will do them together because it's the same people, same equipment, same resources, same time. And there are experts out there. Jeff, can you speak to the fact that there are experts out there who have capabilities in both?
Yeah, there's a lot of planning firms, both regionally and locally, that could take this on and probably do a good job. They may have to bring in some consultants for specialty areas, but certainly there's quite a few very capable firms, both regionally and nationally, that could do this and do a good job.
So, yes, Helen.
A couple questions come to mind, and I'm just drawing on something that Don said, and what you just said about how this particular group does not have any action to take and so forth. I understand that. I personally have taken my interest to the point where I go to the Conservation Commission meetings, and they've been great. They have been open, they have been proactive, they are actively and successfully, I think, seeking to bring themselves up to the point where they can start making some action steps. One of the things that Don said about, or you, here I'm getting a little confused who said what, but the issue I'd like clarified for me is there any time, let's say, frame that the RFP has to be, let's say, developed vis-a-vis the money that's in the budget? and say if the Conservation Commission is really grappling with the issues that are necessary for them to come up with their goals so that they can start making some, valid and good decisions going forward. So is there any time frame there that would be of any consequence?
Well, the only thing I'd say, this was approved in the fiscal year 16-17 budget, so.
Say that again so I can hear what I'm saying.
I'm sorry, the appropriation for the open space master plan was approved in the fiscal year 16-17.
Correct.
Budget, so whatever the limitations are on that, I think usually they say 3 years. I know in some projects we've had, they've said, all the funds should be expended within 3 years. I don't know if that would be, the case here, but more than likely.
So what we would do in that case, because of the crazy budget year we had, and we had to bifurcate the spending, is we would probably do a motion, although Jerry, I'm gonna put it off. I know you submitted for Monday, but I want to do it the following Thursday, just because our agenda is crazy. But we would make the request to the Board of Selectmen that we wait and combine the two. So the money's already been appropriated, but just do them together, because it kind of makes sense to do them both at the same time, so that you don't do open space and then Culture, Parks, and Rec is following, wait, you didn't think about this, you didn't think about this, or to do parks planning first and then open space going, what are you thinking? You didn't think about this, you didn't think about this. So it does make sense to do them in a coordinated effort. One of the things that we could look into, Helen, to your point, is if it's conservation, and if conservation wants it, they can help formulate goals with the Conservation Committee. There are consultants that can help different committees formulate goals, and with public outreach, if that's something that you guys have an interest in. That's also a possibility as part of master planning. You saw that with the bike ped. They have a consultant who's reached out to the community and said, what are your priorities? Let us help you create those priorities. And so that can be part of the planning as well. So that's one thing. If conservation has their goals and they're all done and they're 100% fine with it, that's fine too. But that's really, for conservation, sets the goals, the primary goals. And then Culture, Parks, and Rec works with Jerry Toners to implement those goals, and with Mike Glidden on how you carry out the goals. Jerry doesn't set the goals. Those are set by the policymakers of the town, and the policymakers of the town are conservation for conservation goals. And ultimately to the Board of Selectmen. It all comes as a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. But we have a Conservation Commission to advise the Board of Selectmen, who have expertise in the area and who have access to resources for expertise they don't have.
A couple more little things. Over the time that we first started talking about the RFP for the master plans, there was discussion early on that they be a combined master plan. Has that been resolved, and what is the resolution there? It has.
When you say combined,
Yeah, there was talk, meetings back whenever, that there should be a combined master plan for both open space and parks and so forth.
yeah, that's kind of what the question, I guess, we're asking. The commission, the Park and Rec Commission discussed that very topic. And does it make sense to do, as Lisa said, do both, together, for the fact that you've got, same management, staff, equipment, you've got areas that are park and open space areas that are contiguous to each other. So I guess that's the question, or one of the things that's really up for discussion now. Should it be?
I guess I would respond to that and say, the goals might be different, The issue is who does the work, and that might be combined.
Right.
But let's say the goals can predict or say what's to be done, but then it comes together at the other level when you're actually doing the work. Is that possible? So that we can maintain two independent master plans. So I would like that to be explored. Just to say that because the scope of this work is so different ways, that we sort of maintain that independence at this level, and then afterward come to the next level and say, how are you going to execute it?
So they are related, though. I mean, a lot of the Parks and Rec
They're
are
what?
open. They're related, because Parks and Rec is a lot of open space, right? Sometimes there's active open space, there's passive open space, there's managed open space, there's unmanaged open space. Most of them are recreation. I think what I asked Jeff is there one group you're right, there are two separate goals. Open space goals may be slightly different than Parks and Rec, which might be more actively used. But there are, if you look for efficiency of resources, are there consulting groups out there that do both? And does it make sense to have one group do both evaluations, even though the goals may be slightly different? And obviously, if that were the case, the consultant would work with conservation on the open space issues and culture, parks, and rec on the park issues, but they would be in concert with the notion that there are only 6 people who do this work, and they share the same equipment, and they're going to have to manage their schedules. So it's more a practical thing. So the question is, if we can find someone with the expertise in both, why wouldn't we do that and have them work with the 2 commissions? That's sort of that was the recommendation of Culture, Parks, and Rec, and bring it to this group as well, and eventually come to the Board of Selectmen, who will be the ultimate decider, but I'd ask Don to bring that to Conservation as well, so that we can get feedback from Conservation. Part of the reason we have this is I can say to Don, can you bring this to the attention of Conservation and get their feedback? And then once you have all the feedback, can you find the right person? And it wouldn't be an individual. It's $200,000, guys. It's almost $250,000. We're taking this seriously. Can we find someone to do the job well? And in consulting with Jerry and Tom and Jeff, and Jeff deals with environmental consultants all the time. That's his job. And I don't know if you've had a chance to get to know Jeff, but Jeff is really, really, really good at his job. He's been doing it for 20 years. So this is not a guy who's going to say, yeah, I'm all for the Parks and Rec at the expense of conservation, nor is he going to say, I'm all for conservation at the expense of culture recs. He can do both. He is that good. And a lot of this is environmental engineering, which is not Jerry's expertise. Jerry's expertise is in executing and in certain other areas. So that's why you would bring in a consultant with some of the expertise that we don't have. I mean, the great thing about our staff is they know to get the resources that they need so that they can make sure that they're doing the things the right way. It is a little bit of a mess because there are 3 boards involved. There's Conservation, Board of Selectmen, and Culture, Parks, and Rec who do all these things. And all of them have public audience and welcome input. So this is the very first step. We don't have a draft. We're saying, what is it you're looking for? What's your vision? What do you care about? Let us know, and we'll see if we can incorporate it. And if you're asking for public input, we're here. What is it you want? This is part of the whole public input process. This is the very first one. So there'll be other opportunities. I imagine I won't be the chair of this after today, but I imagine that this will be a standing agenda item. We have public audience, and you don't have to wait for public audience. You can pick up the phone. Susan Messina sent us an email. It's incorporated, done. You can do that too. So those are the sort of things we can do. And if we hire a consultant, one of the recommendations may be do a focus group, just like the bike ped did that. So that's, if that's important to you, you would say, hey, we would love to see some focus groups. And so that can be part of the consultant's job. So there's a lot of ways to do that, and that's why we're here seeking your feedback. What do you want to see? If you say, Diane, you said you wanted public input, so maybe you'll say, Lisa, we would love to see as part of the consultant's job focus groups with the community. And then we put that in the RFP. You'll be expected to do a few focus groups. So there are lots of things we can do, but we're not going to hire someone who's an idiot, because Jeff doesn't do that. And Jerry doesn't do that. They'll be hired with multiple expertise. I'll open it up to Don. Do you want to speak to anything?
No, I don't think I need to add anything. We're ready on conservation side to think about this. I will take that question back to the commission.
Okay. And Helen?
I didn't hear your question. That's why I was asking, waiting to see what he was saying. What was your question?
Just if he had anything to add. I asked him to go to conservation on doing them together.
Well, only one aside remark, and that is in response to something you said about how this particular group does not have the jurisdiction over these actions to be taken. But I would hope that this particular group would be willing to be informed, stay informed as things are happening at other levels, and that if we could, let's say, decide amongst ourselves that we could at least send out a word to say, we think this is okay, or we think this
Sure.
should be tweaked, or whatever. I don't want this particular group to ever be in a vacuum, not being actively involved in what's happening to open space.
So
Yeah.
that's fine, except that's not our charge.
It's
So,
not our
yeah.
charge, but I think
So we
it
can
could be
do-
something that we as a committee
Yeah.
could discuss and decide, how do we interject our thinking or our, thoughts into this process?
So I have no
I can do
objection.
it personally,
Yeah.
like I do, like I am, going to the
Right.
Conservation Commission meetings, but I also have the other mind that this group is too important to the issue in general, and that it would be remiss of us, I think, not to be able to say or share our thinking with the groups that are actually taking over the important job of stewardship.
So I agree with that, and that's why exactly we have Dave, I think it was my suggestion, or perhaps it was Dave's and I together, to put Dave on open space, because they are one of the people. So you actually have the ability to share. Anything you say to conservation goes through Don. Don is hopefully reporting to conservation, and Dave will hopefully be reporting to Culture, Parks, and Rec, and explaining the Open Space Committee's concern, and also coming back with their committee's recommendations. So that is absolutely, and that's why we're here today. I mean, this does not have to go through us. It actually doesn't have to go through, this is already Board of Selectmen authorized. We're doing this to seek feedback. It's not something that we have to do. We're doing it because we want to do it and we value the feedback we get. So there is no draft. Jerry's still in the process of taking notes, thinking about what he'd like to see. Jeff's in the process of reviewing other RFPs out there. We've gotten feedback from Susan Messina. If you guys have feedback, please get it to Jerry or Jeff, and we'll share that. And then eventually there will be a draft RFP that will be shared both with the Culture, Parks, and Rec Commission and Conservation, and eventually the Board of Selectmen, because actually, I don't know who's going to sign it now that we got this new form of government. It used to come to me, but I'm not sure it will come to the first selectman anymore. And if it comes to me for signature, it always goes to the Board of Selectmen. So I don't know how that's going to change with the new form of government. But in any event, we do try to keep each other informed. And this is the very first step in the process. We're saying, what do you care about? And if you have issues you want included in the RFP, we're saying, tell us. You're here today. Let us know. We haven't even started drafting. Now's the time to tell us.
And that is exactly.
Right.
And it's an observation. Maybe it's because I'm using the new hearing device and I'm hearing you. You sound defensive, and I apologize if you're feeling that you have to defend these people. I know these people. They are excellent. Don is excellent. Everybody that I have worked with on any of the open space issues, whether they were through the land trust or through the town, you couldn't ask for more sincere people. We may disagree on the method sometimes, the timing sometimes, but I don't think there is one person who has said, he's an idiot, and he doesn't know anything, and he's trying to destroy everything we tried so hard to protect. Or, I don't agree with him because he took down my favorite tree. It
Well, I'm
isn't
glad to
that.
hear that.
Everybody is saying there's so much talent. And I guess I wish open space wasn't called open space, because it just sort of, I don't know.
So it was created actually with the purpose of purchasing and selling open space. So it actually had a limited role, and it's sort of expanded over time, which is not a bad thing, but the people appointed to open space don't necessarily have expertise in open space. You have the first selectman, you have planning and zoning, because their role was not to do open space, not to manage it, but to deal with the zoning and planning issues and the other issues that come with the sale and purchase.
Maybe that is exactly what it would be wonderful if this evolved to be the public input that you're seeking in order to get the outcome that we all want.
So one of the things the charter does change is we will have the opportunity to appoint 3 new members, including beyond just Dave Bush, not just Dave Bush, that came out the wrong way, but you.
We know where you're going with that.
Yes, and one of the things we talked about at the board level is you want someone who perhaps has expertise in forestry, perhaps has expertise in, environmental, some with expertise to bring to the open space board. So that's one of the things that actually I pushed through and that we got passed by some miracle of miracles. I don't know how that happened. Yeah.
How
I just
will
want to
that happen?
volunteer just one thing, and I've not had probably nearly as much experience as Jeff had in the whole master planning area. The one that I was very involved in was when the Simsbury Farms master plan was done in 1998. And the major component of that, once a consultant was retained, was he was charged with holding, I believe, at least 3 public hearings. And which he did, which was a big part, and I think hopefully it's addressing a little bit of what you're saying, Diane. And in going, and just starting to do a little legwork on this and going online and looking at other plans, now, one of the other towns I came across, they actually had an online survey that people could go on, so if they didn't want to, come out to the public hearing, they could go online. Everything was, it was solicited from, all land use groups, active, passive, related land use organizations across the board. So, just to your point, I think that once that consultant is in place and he's given his, marching, the biggest component, I think the biggest piece is that public hearing part and the public input part, if that answers or addresses your concern anyway.
It's not so much a concern, it's more of an observation that I've watched how open space evolved. I've been in town 50 years now, and I know I'm still a newcomer for some people involved, but 50 years is a long time to watch the development and where we are now. And I didn't mean it was easy, Diana, but the difficult part, it's like adopting a child. The process is difficult, but the raising of the child is the hard part.
So we agree, which is why why I pushed for $250,000 to do this. I agree 100%.
But now my question is, the 3 additional that the charter called for, how are they being added and from where?
So they would be appointed by the Board of Selectmen, as I understand it. I'd have to go back. And
By
they,
party status or?
no, that would be by, as we mentioned earlier, by
Expertise.
qualification, yes.
Is there timing with that, or that is?
That's for the next board to do, yeah.
Okay.
So you can talk to your son.
Yes, it is, at the next board, but.
Yeah.
No,
Chris
I'm
will
just saying,
handle that.
in the process of the charter revision response, did it say when that was to happen?
No,
Okay.
but it starts with the new, they have to appoint new members to open space, they have to do a new economic development committee. They'll get to it as quickly as they can. They're not slackers. I think they'll do a good job with that. And they'll be looking for expertise. The way it's generally done, I don't know if they'll do it because I won't be there, is you ask who's going to be on a subcommittee of it to do the interviewing. They'll put out a request for volunteers, ask to see their resumes, do a series of interviews, and then make a recommendation to the full Board of Selectmen. That's how it's been done on other areas where we've asked for expertise in an area. And, it may be that conservation says, boy, open space would really benefit from an expert with, or, Parks and Rec may say, oh, you guys might really benefit with an expert in, I don't know, organic chemical management, I don't know, whatever, if there's some issue. Or Helen may say, I really want a forester. And I think all those would be appropriate. And so there may be, so the Board of Selectmen will be charged with figuring out what they are. And it's not a static group. We're having this meeting, you guys are sitting in the audience. We don't hold you to the public audience stuff. We take feedback all the time. But there will be opportunities to expand and really think about it. But I think Jerry's right. I mean, one of the things he's heard loud and clear and that he's really good at is when they do a master plan is they seek public input. So there will be an opportunity to do that. And if you hire the right consultant, they'll do it well. We're seeing that with, if you're involved in the bike ped, that's being
They are
done
doing a
just
great job.
beautifully.
They are.
So there's ways to do it, and that's sort of the idea. But it is a recognition of there are limited resources, and there are not going to be additional resources. There's going to be a $3 billion deficit in 2 years again at the state. This is not over. We're in for a 10 to 15-year ride. So how do we best use the limited resources we have and the limited people and the little limited machines to manage things in the best? And a lot of it's going to be no management. I mean, to the extent we have plans to manage, we can't afford it. We don't have the time. It's just not going to happen because there just isn't.
Let the word go out that there is a fund that can be that money can go into, and maybe with some contributions, whatever, but let it be known that that is a need as you're working through the next 15 years, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we've highlighted that pretty well. I mean, we now have $200,000 in funding that took years to get. So I think that's a good first step. And then once you have the plan, it's easier to go after grants. So that's why you do these plans, and so you can leverage town money with grant money that's out there, and that's part of the reason. That's how Jerry, we didn't get the STEEP grant, and they've stopped funding the STEEP grants, but we always use our planning to support the grants we apply for. So that's sort of where that is. Mr. Rice could not be here, but the Plan of Conservation and Development has been completed and is posted online, so if you guys get a chance to look at that. I think they were very pleased. I know the Planning Commission was very pleased at how it turned out, and I've read it, but
I have read it, and I'm just very impressed.
yeah, they did a nice job.
Very impressed.
I was hoping to have the water shortage ordinance, because Don has been working very hard on that, and I have been pushing that, but Mr. Kelly and Mr. Payne did not have the next draft done to share with you guys. I hope to have it on the Board of Selectmen agenda before I leave, so it would not be on the 13th, but on the 27th, if I can get them to complete their work. If not, it will go on to the new board. They're close. I don't know where the votes will come down. I know we don't have Sean Askham, but if we can just get Mr. Payne and Mr. Kelly are working to try and find accommodating language, so if we can convince Mr. Payne, that would be at least a 4-2 vote, and Cheryl has not yet committed where her inclinations lie there. And then, so we'll table that until we have something we can share. That did not, I was hoping to have that, but that did not happen. And then we have the proposed meeting schedule for 2018, and Joanne will be just so happy if we could approve that tonight.
I will miss the June meeting, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't approve it.
Okay.
Which meeting will you miss?
June.
June. My goodness, you're planning ahead.
Where are you going?
I hope it's good.
Oh, nice.
Where?
Cornwall.
Cornwall.
Good.
All right, everybody's going to Cornwall
When are you going?
in June. All right, can I have a motion to approve the regular meetings for the Open Space Committee?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion carries unanimously, and with that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
You don't discuss that.
With this crew, you never know.
All right. No discussion.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Diane.